Okay, so, wait, what was it? One thing you should understand before going to a coding bootcamp is that you should code as much as possible before you get into that bootcamp. And that doesn't mean necessarily go absolutely insane. You don't have to code for hours and hours on end every day, but just expose yourself to as much as possible. And a lot of times, boot camps will offer a pre-course that you can use, and that will kind of expose you to their curriculum and things like that. But if they don't, for some reason, another way that you could always start coding is you go to like Code Academy or Udemy, YouTube. There's a million resources that you can use, and I just think that exposing yourself to code before going to the boot camp will help you get through the boot camp, because you won't be so overwhelmed with all the new things. There's still going to be things that you don't know, of course. I'm running into things every day where I didn't know before, but just laying that foundation is obviously the best way to start your coding path, especially going to a boot camp. Definitely code as much as possible and get as much exposure as possible. Another very good site that you can look at that explains things very well, it's not necessarily coding, so you don't code, but there's videos explaining the code, and they do a very good job on it, and it's called Pluralsight. That is another really good resource that you can use. And then, like I said, Code Academy, Udemy, YouTube, all those things. And this is probably self-explanatory, but definitely a point that I wanted to touch on. You should look into your curriculum for sure and know what you're going to be getting into. So know what languages you're going to be learning, and definitely brush up on that as much as possible. And it's also good to do other programming languages. Like I said, all the exposure that you can get to any coding language is definitely beneficial. But definitely look into the curriculum, figure out what languages they are using, and definitely brush up on those before starting the boot camp. And I think that would make your time in the boot camp much more enjoyable and just easier.
So when choosing a boot camp, there are a lot of variables to look at. And one of the biggest one is, which boot camp do you want to go to? Because with the rise of programmers around the world, there are a lot more boot camps. You have big companies like Hack Reactor, like Full Stack Academy, like Flatiron, which is the one we're going to, App Academy. And all these programs are good, but they all offer slightly different things. So you got to figure out which one is the best fit for you in your scenario, your lifestyle, your financial ability. So let's talk about that a little bit. So number one, it's more important than all of the others, is curriculum. What exactly does the bootcamp offer? What is it teaching you as far as programming languages? What can you get out of it? What kind of job can you attain with those languages? Is it giving you the ability to learn other related languages? It's huge. So for us, Flatiron, we chose because of the curriculum, actually. It's a little different, and some people might not like it just from first glance. We didn't like it from first glance because it starts off with Ruby and Ruby on Rails, kind of a fading programming language, right? What we didn't realize until we actually started was it's an incredible introductory into object-oriented programming, into learning how to think like a coder and understanding the principles and the fundamentals of programming. It's going to lead us into JavaScript and React and Redux in a brilliant way, and I think we're going to be more capable than a lot of other different types of programs because of the way they introduce the material. Now, we didn't know that when we first went into it. We were kind of taking a chance on what may or may not be a decent curriculum, but we actually chose it because of some other factors. So what you need to do is figure out exactly what you want to learn, do some research into the languages. What kind of things can those languages accomplish? How easy are they to learn? Is it, web development, or is it mobile development, or is it game development, or just any other type of software? You have to do the research for this. You don't want to just jump into it. So another big one is cost. It's a huge factor, and people want to be able to do what they can afford. They don't want to take a huge risk on something that they don't know if they're going to get something great out of it. It's kind of time to analyze your budget. Are you going to be able to afford this boot camp? If you need to take out a loan for it, are you going to be able to repay that? Most boot camps range from anywhere from $5,000 to $20-something thousand. There's a pretty big range in there, and that's one of the reasons that a lot of these camps are so different. So it's very important to assess the cost. Also assess the different types of programs that each of these camps offer, because that's actually what we did, and we ended up paying less. So something like Flatiron, for example, we're getting the same curriculum, but because we're not technically doing it on an in-person cohort, we are doing it through the online course. We're paying like at least $5,000 less than some of these other students, and we're getting the same exact material. We're getting similar support from instructors. We actually even have access to the campus. We have access to the campus. We can go there whenever we want, and we do. We go there regularly every week. Very important is a job guarantee. It is a standard for boot camps to offer a job guarantee. If the boot camp doesn't offer a job guarantee, do not do it. It is not worth it. It's one of the things that a lot of these bigger boot camps now have going for them. It's super important to find a boot camp with a job guarantee. If they don't have a job guarantee, then that boot camp, that school, has no reason to give you the level of education that some of these other boot camps do. They have no reason to invest their time and their energy into you, because once you give them your money, that's it. That's all that matters. With Flatiron or with a lot of boot camps nowadays, they say you come through our program and we guarantee in 6 months that you will have a job, and if you don't, then you get your full tuition back. That is very important. You should also look into the parameters in which that job agreement comes into play, because it can vary what they count as a job. So definitely look into that, but regardless, job guarantee is mandatory. Do not go to a boot camp that does not have one.
So this point kind of branches off the last point that I had, which was get as much exposed to code as possible before you start a boot camp. And this point is understanding that you're going to be frustrated and that you're going to need patience to get through the boot camp. I've shared multiple times in these videos of how much difficulty I was having from the start because I didn't necessarily prep as well as I should have. I think now I've definitely got to a point where I finish all the work on time and I'm at a good spot now, but the first about month or two was definitely really rough. And I think that's definitely in part to not brushing up and preparing the way I should have. But it also comes down to understanding that no matter how much you prepare, you're gonna get frustrated and there's gonna be things that you don't know. So I think that's definitely vital to understand, because if you're not a patient person and you get angry really easy and you can't get past that frustration and anger, then it might be kind of tough to get through a boot camp, because it's very long, it's very intense, and it's very strenuous on your mind. It's like solving a puzzle every single day. And it's definitely not something that a lot of people are able to do. So I think just understanding that you will get frustrated no matter how good you are. Even if you've been programming for years before coming in, you're going to get frustrated, and you need to understand that that's just part of it. Just like anything, you're not going to get good at something without having a little failure and getting frustrated. So I definitely think that understanding that will make your time in a boot camp that much more enjoyable and that much easier.
Your lifestyle describes who you are, what you're capable of, and what you are going to end up wanting to do and what you have done. So if something like a bootcamp program does not fit your lifestyle, it is probably not worth doing. And here's what I mean. For Phil and I, we live in a city where we actually don't have that many friends. We are kind of isolated, and we've accepted the fact that we are not going to have a lot of social time, if any social time, while we go to this boot camp, because we're working simultaneously while we do it, among all of the other things that we have to do in our life. So that acceptance of a lack of social time is essential for us, because if we hadn't accepted the fact that we're not going to be able to go out and do things every weekend, we're not going to be able to, spend time with our friends after work, it's going to be full weeks of us going to work and going to class afterwards until 9 or 10 p.m. and then, making food for the next day or whatever it is, getting up and doing it again 5 days a week. And then on Saturday going there to campus for, 5 to 8 hours. And then Sunday, a lot of the time working. And if not, then we're doing other things productive. But this is something that we've accepted, and we know that for the duration of this program, this is what our life is going to be like. And that's okay, and we're happy to be doing it. We're not in a position where we're upset with our choice. We do not regret it whatsoever. And that's because it is a choice in which we've made for our lifestyle. But this isn't for everybody. If you value going out on the weekends and having that social time, if that is kind of what keeps you sane and you're working full-time, and even if you're not, say you went to a full-time boot camp, you may have a hard time adjusting, and it may be even more severe than that. You may have a hard time doing it at all. You should assess your situation and see if you really think it's going to be possible to get all this work done, because it is an immense amount of work. It is constant work. And we're only doing the part-time program. Yes, we're doing it on top of our jobs, but this is 10 months of very, very hard work. And although we still think it's worth it at this, moment in the program, it should definitely be something that should be considered when you're choosing it. If you are okay with that lack of social life, with that lack of free time, then it might be easier than you think.
When it all comes down to it, when it's all said and done, in my opinion, most important thing that you should do before deciding to do a boot camp is just to make sure that you truly like to code. You're going to get burnt out while doing coding because it is strenuous on the mind, but if it's to the point where you feel like you're burnt out every single day and you don't want to code and you don't want to even look at it, then that's obviously a bad sign. Like, if it comes to the point where before your boot camp you're trying to brush up on code and like get better at it and expose yourself, but even then it's like hard for you to get yourself to do it, then it's probably not the right thing for you.
You need to want to do this after work, after school, in your free time, whenever your free time is. You want to have the desire to sit down on your computer and start to solve problems in code. Without that passion, this probably isn't the right thing for you. People we've already heard and seen, and I probably have met people who are currently in boot camps, and the only reason they did it was for the paycheck afterwards, because it pays pretty well. But it's such a sad life decision to go into this for the money.
To go into anything for the money.
You have to think long term here. 10, 15 years down the line, are you going to be happy doing this? You're going to get used to making whatever amount of money that you're making from it. Not to mention that you may not even get a job out of it if you're in it for the money, because if you're only in it for the money, you're not going to put in the same amount of effort, you're not going to have the same amount of passion for it while you're in the program as some of the other students do. And if you don't put in that effort and you don't have that dedication, it's going to be very, very hard to get a job afterwards.
So one thing I think it's very important to remember too is that coding is something that you can use to create things. You can create things for the things that you like. So coding doesn't have to be just something that is the safe job that, has a ton of money and, maybe you can get a remote job. It doesn't have to be like that. You can look at coding as something that you're learning the skill to be able to create things. And that's what I think some people forget, and they look at coding and computer science and they think, oh, I want to do it for the money and for the remote job or the safe job. But look at coding as like a paintbrush on a canvas. Like there's so much opportunity and so much potential in coding that it should be about way more than just, you know, getting a job at that 9 to 5 and getting $80,000 a year and working the remote job. Like you should want to do it and want to end up creating something for yourself.
If you are the kind of person that likes to be able to find solutions for things, or has this wild idea that can be executed on and turned into some massive concept used by others, coding might be the thing for you.
But if there's anything specific that you guys would want us to talk about or you want us to elaborate on more, definitely put it in the comments and let us know, or just reach out to us. Like, you know, direct message if that's possible.
Text us.
I don't know. Text us and leave our number.
You can call us.
I think I'm gonna put my address down if you want to stop by.
Yeah.
Grab a beer.
Stop by. I thought you were gonna say mail, but stop by. Grab a beer.
Yeah. If there's anything that you guys want us to talk about in the next coming videos, let us know for sure.
Other than that, catch you in the next one.